Well, hello there. Thanks for tuning in, whether that be live or as several of you have reached out to us and told us that you're watching the show. You're just in a completely different time zone. So you're watching it from your own place when you are able to do that. And that's one of the benefits of just video, YouTube, other types of channels, is that you can watch this content when you want to be able to do that. That's also one of the reasons why I love utilizing social media marketing, because we can reach out to people and they can engage with Christian content at the right time, which is when they're ready, when they're looking to do that. And it works for us 24/7. So even while maybe you're asleep, the message of Jesus can be going out to people who desperately need to hear about him. So on today's podcast and show, I guess on this one is this live training, we're going to be looking at custom audiences. But the way that we do this show is that I try to answer at least a couple questions that people send to me or somebody here at Kavanaugh Media or at GMPI who helps sponsor this show. And we try to address those questions first. And then there is a portion where we're going to do some training. We're going to show you the specific things that we're talking about. And so for today, I really want to talk to you about a couple questions that I've been asked. I thought, wow, these are great questions that people were asking. The first one's this one. What's the difference between a personal ad account and a Facebook business account? Now, there is this option to be able to do this on Facebook. And we're going to talk about not just Facebook and Instagram marketing on this show. We're going to be talking about Google ads, possibly YouTube ads as well. We may even dive into some Twitter ads at some point, because that's another channel that I try to leverage. But when it comes specifically here to Facebook, when you create a Facebook account, just your own personal account, you actually can have then this ad account that is set up. And it looks very similar when you go into Ads Manager. The differences between this personal and the Facebook business one, well, first of all, the business account itself is the way that Facebook is pushing. This is what they want any business or nonprofit, any group like this to be utilizing the Facebook business account. And so I think that that's going to become more and more prevalent. It's going to get pushed forward as things move along. But what it also does is it provides almost like this umbrella of protection that a personal account won't do. When you have the business account set up and then you have your business ad account set up, you can really set up the permission levels per person. So let's say you have an intern that comes into your church or your ministry. Well, you can give them permission without opening up everything to what they can see. When you sign up use only your personal account, then if something happens and you do something wrong, your personal account is at risk as well. And it is very hard. It's not impossible, but it's a lot more difficult to add people to these different accounts. And in fact, when you use a personal one, the only way to do that is to friend them and add them in that way. That's just not really the right setup. It doesn't provide the protections and the segmentation of permissions for different people. So both for you and your account and for the overall account, a Facebook business account is a better option. It's just easier to add. It's easier to put your information and maybe to share something, or somebody else can share a pixel data or different types of information with you. Well, when you're doing the personal one, it's just really a lot harder to be able to do that. And when you have a Facebook business account, you start out with 5 ad accounts that you can use. So you could have one for a certain type of ministry or a certain location or whatever, and still have these other ad accounts, maybe with different credit cards even, that you could be running and have different types of ads and outreach that you're doing. So it's a great question. What I would encourage you to do is just keep that personal Facebook ad account there in case there's an emergency and you just really need, and something's happening over on the business side possibly, but know this, it's a different pixel. So everything of the setup is just different. And so if you run it from your personal account, all of that traffic, all of that data will be tied to that personal ad account. So we really recommend just doing the business account, setting it up right, using real identities, following the rules. If you're concerned about security, which I know that many of you that watch this show or listen to the podcast are, then the business account is actually going to provide a lot more protection. Even though it's saying, hey, the people that run this page are in this location, like by country, it is still giving you more just protection because you are in that business type of account. So I hope that that helps you. If you do have questions about it, you can always go to facebook.com/business/help/support. And depending on what time of day, you can even get chat support on there, but there's lots of articles and a lot of help available for you. All right, one more question, and then we're going to dive into the training. This is a really good question. I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a lawyer. I did not even stay in a Holiday Inn Express or however that commercial goes last night. I'm staying in one this week. I have to travel for work. But this is the question that came up, and so it's a legal question. What about liability for online responders or for online ministries? What is the liability? Now, I am not a lawyer, okay? So I would really encourage you to, if you're a part of a mission org, talk to your mission org. If you're a church or a different type of group, make sure, talk to a lawyer. Make sure, double check on this. What I would recommend is that every ministry have some sort of at least general liability insurance. This is not just for your online work, but for those who might be doing offline work. So if you're a church, you should have some general liability insurance. And it can cover your people doing the online work as well, I believe. If you're a mission organization, then you really do need this for your people. But what is happening online is a part of that ministry. And so the liability is in case you get sued or if there's a security issue for something like GDPR or California Privacy Act that they have, whether there's really bad advice that happens, someone is suicidal and your online responder does something that seems negligent, or even if they don't, maybe they do everything within their power, it's still possible for people to be sued or groups to be sued. And so I really would recommend that you talk to a lawyer, but that also you get some general liability. One other point on this before we jump into custom audiences is that when you're working online, in your Facebook business account, which also covers your Instagram ads, then when a person responds back to them, that online responder, and we'll do a training on that one of these weeks here on here, but that online responder, they are responding back as the page. So it's not their name. It's not John Rawls responding back to that person. It's going to say Kavanaugh Media if someone was messaging our page. And so there is protection for the individual, but there's still liability for the overall group. So I would really encourage you that if you've not thought about this, you probably do. Unfortunately, that's the world that we live in today. And so I would encourage you to be looking into just some general liability insurance. I'm hoping that it won't cost you too much to be able to do that. All right. Enough of that. That's a bummer of a topic, but it's a great question, and I appreciated the group, the organization that asked that, and they're doing a great work for the Lord, and I hope that they get all the answers that they need. We're going to talk today about audiences. So it's right message in front of the right person. That's what's really important here. If you have a great message, but you're not getting in front of the person who is the most receptive to it, well, then you're probably going to be wasting your money. And we looked at Ads Manager last week so that you can see the metrics to see how many people are watching a video or clicking or going on to your website, making comments or engaging. All of those are showing a level of interest. So much of what I try to do online is really born out of a strategy of what I would do offline and just understanding marketing and business and evangelism, persuasion. If I was going to go into, let's say, Academy Sports or a Dick's Sporting Goods, and I walk in there, and I like fishing. I like fly fishing. I'm not very good, and I don't get to go very often, but I really do like it. And let's say I'm over in the fishing area, and a person walks up to me, and they go, "Hey, did you know our golf clubs are on sale today?" Well, I think golf's pretty cool too, but that's not what I'm there for. And in fact, I would kind of be like, dude, look where I'm at. This is what I'm showing my interest in. Okay. So my behavior shows what it is that I'm interested in. That's why with our social media marketing, what a person does lets us know what they're interested in, or maybe what they're not interested in. Maybe they're angry, and so they engage in that way. All right. So if, let's say you have a church and people keep coming to a certain part of your website, that's going to tell you, at least of those people who are seeing your ad, what they're interested in. Or maybe on your evangelistic site and for your missions work, you have a Bible download page. And so people come to that page and then they're clicking to go to like you version or whatever you might use. Their behavior is showing you what they're interested in. And so with custom audiences, with our audiences, we're able to build smaller versions of them to send ads. We spend less money, and we can send a more targeted message to them, something that is appealing. This is why, if you have, maybe you've thought this or you've heard other people say, I think Facebook's listening in to me. I think Facebook's listening into our conversations or whatever. No, it's they can tell. First of all, they can tell your IP address, so they know generally where you're accessing their channel from. And then every bit of content, even in just your feed, if you don't click on it, let's say you pause or you watch that video, you're scrolling through and your thumb pauses and you've watched something for 5 seconds. They're able to see that and to build pictures. Google is the same way. Can you imagine every Google search you've ever done and being able to pull together a picture of what you're interested in? If it was me, you would see that I'd be interested in something for a while and I would search a lot, and then maybe I get interested in something else. This is a really powerful tool, so that when you go to a certain site and you're looking and maybe you don't buy it, well, then they can show you ads about it or something similar to it. Let's say they download a Bible. Now you can send them an ad that says, here's the top 10 stories as you're reading the Bible, or here's how to do a Discovery Bible study. But you're putting it in front of the people who have already downloaded or got a Bible. So this is so powerful, and it starts with your audiences. Now, part of this is being reduced because of the way the blocking and the pixels and a lot of the stuff that's going on, but it's still really powerful, and I think it's still there. It's just not going to maybe be as powerful as we get going. So to segment your audience is going to allow you to speak to the right person with the right message based upon what they have already done. And so it's just an unbelievably powerful way to reach out to people. One final thing before we jump into this training. I can envision this being used by kids to start looking at things like they would want for Christmas, and then it would show up on their parents' feed. This is one thing that I seem to have noticed, is that when my wife is searching for something, I will start to see some of those things in my feed at times too. I think it can tell it's coming from the same IP address. They don't tell us everything. They don't tell us a lot. All right, these different channels and companies don't, but there's things that we're learning from it. And just imagine all of these little ways that people try to finagle around or to do that. So maybe kids are going to get smart to let parents know what they want for Christmas by doing this as well. What we care about is getting the gospel in front of as many people as possible. So we're going to dive into the training right now. And this is just about 20 minutes. Remember, if you're on here and you have a question, put it. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, whichever, GMPIs or Kavanaugh Media One, if you've got a comment or a question, type it in, and we'll make sure then and address those as soon as this video training is done. Here we go. All right, if we're going to leverage Facebook ads and Instagram, then it's important for us to get the right message in front of the right person. And the best way to do that is to use some custom audiences. You can also then create lookalike audiences from them, and that's what this training video is going to be about. We're going to look at how to create custom audiences and then how you can create a lookalike audience from them. So to get started, go to business.facebook.com. Once you've logged into your account, now you're going to see these 9 little dots that are over here on the left. And you would click on those and you're going to scroll until you find where it says audiences. And then click on audiences. Now once we're there, it's going to pick the account and it's going to show you which ones are available for you. Obviously on this now, I'm going to have to blur out and block out some different ones of these custom audiences just for security reasons. But I'm going to try to show you as much as I can so that it looks familiar to you when you begin yours. Now, one of the things that I'm noticing just as I log in here is that it is saying that due to new privacy rules in Europe, we no longer support audiences based on people who sent a message to your business or your ministry in this place. So campaigns using those audiences have been paused. If you are a person watching this show and you're already using some custom audiences, you might want to go in and check, especially if you're in the EU area, in the European area. So I'm going to click this out. And now we're going to dive into the aspect of audiences. So you can see here that I have several different audiences. Sometimes it says the size. It will say whether or not they are ready or are unavailable and when they were created. Remember, you can always put your mouse over at the little eye there and it will tell you more about what it is saying there. For these, when it says not available, it's to protect the privacy of people. So sometimes when it's a very specific custom audience, it's not going to show you that size. Best thing then is when you're creating the ad is to look at that meter and see whether it is showing it that it's in the green or not. So we're going to create an audience. It's this blue button right over here. We're going to click on that and we're given the option of a custom audience, a lookalike audience, a special ad audience, or we can use and modify a saved audience. But we're going to look at a custom audience today. When you click on that, it's going to give you this option right here. This is where you begin to decide what kind of data is going to go into this custom audience. The way I think of it is it's like a bucket, and that bucket will have new information coming into it, and then after a certain period of time, the old information is going to move out. These custom audiences are based on time, and so they're going to constantly be filling back up with new pieces of data, depending upon where they're getting that data from. And your lookalike audience is audiences that are large at scale that are similar in their characteristics to your custom audience. Now, the better your custom audience and the better the data is in those, the better your lookalike audience will be as well. But also just for retargeting. And what retargeting means is that you are running an ad to someone who has already done something on your website or on your Facebook page or in regards to an ad. They have shown an interest by maybe watching a video or going to a certain part of your page or downloading a Bible, something like that. Now you can give them the next piece of content. I think this is really important. This is a place where many teams and churches make mistakes, is that all of their messages are either going just to the top of the funnel, a cold audience, if you will. They don't even know who you are, or their messages are way too specific and the call to action is way too deep. We're talking about people changing their very worldview. They're not going to see one ad and then 5 minutes later go, look, there's water. What hindereth me from being baptized? Or something like that. It's just not going to happen. So we need to think sequential steps. Well, these audiences allow us to do that, to put the right message in front of the person who has done something, the right person at the right time. So here are our sources that we can look at here. There's a few of them that you will use and a few that you probably won't. Website is one we're going to look at right away. This is once you have installed the Facebook pixel on your site, this is building a custom audience of people that have done things on your website. A customer list is if you have like an Excel spreadsheet, it would be a CSV file of email addresses, maybe their names and cell phone numbers. You can upload that list of previous people, and Facebook will match that data, and then it does not store that and it gets rid of it, but it creates a custom audience of people who you already maybe know. That's valuable to create then a lookalike audience based upon an already previous known people. Maybe you have a list of people from ManyChat that have engaged with you. Or maybe you have had some sort of PDF Bible download and people have given you their email or cell phone number. You can upload those and create an audience of people who you already know, and then expand that audience to people that you don't know. Offline activity is probably not something you're going to use. If you have an app, and some of you do, you have Bible apps or different types of video types of apps, then you could use the app activity, like app downloads or things within the app. Instagram account, if people have engaged with your Instagram account. Video is another one. We'll look at that one here in just a little bit. A lead form is a form that pops up. It's a specific type of ad on Facebook, and it auto-fills the information for them to maybe get a download or some sort of promotional thing that you want to offer to them. Well, it fills in the information as their name, maybe their cell phone or email. So it's really fast for people to fill out that information. That's called a lead form. Instant experience is kind of like a landing page right within Facebook, and you can create audiences of people who have done things with your instant experience. I think this is going to continue to grow, because as the pixel is blocked at times, then you can do these instant experiences to, in essence, create a landing page right there within Facebook. And you can still have a call to action that takes them on to the rest of your website. Shopping, probably not going to use it. On Facebook listings, probably not. Events, I doubt it. You might have something like that. I know some teams and churches that have. And so if you do some sort of an event, you can create a custom audience of people who have shown an interest in that event, as well as your Facebook page. This is another really important one. People that have engaged with your page or sent you messages. So let's dive into this. Obviously, this video, we're just going to touch on things real quickly. We can't go too in-depth just because of time. So let's look at a website. I'm going to click on it and then hit next. Now, when this comes up, it's going to ask you for the source of your pixel that you have installed. So we're going to pick our Kavanaugh Media one, and now we have a Facebook pixel installed on our site, and let's start just at the top here. This can be include people who meet any or all of the criteria that you're going to see down here. So we're going to say all criteria, and this could be all website visitors or people who visited specific web pages. That could be really interesting. So if I click that one, now it's going to say what page, and I could put the URL for my Bible download or a success page once they've sent you a message. So that's one way that you can really make a very targeted audience. And look here, you can further refine it by how many times they've been to this page greater than 2 times or less than or whatever. It becomes so powerful that if you're driving lots of traffic to your page, and maybe they're coming from Google ads and they're coming to your website, you can then build a custom audience on Facebook to retarget them with Facebook ads. So to me, this is one of the most powerful ones, is you can start to do it based upon what pages people went to. Another one is time. Imagine if you only ran ads to people who have spent the top 25%, 10%, or even 5%. The people who spent the most out of all your website traffic, the top 5% of those people. If time spent equals interest, well, then that could be a really powerful custom audience. And all of these, you can choose the date. So imagine that bucket, new data coming in. As it gets old, it goes out. So if it was 30 days, that means anyone in the last 30 days who has been to your website, the top 5% of time would show up in this audience. And you can pick a specific web page on this one as well. You can go all the way back to 180 days as far as time. So which would mean that this bucket would be quite large possibly. But on day 181, everyone who first came into that bucket on day one would be not in that custom audience. Anyone who came in then yesterday would be added to this audience. So it's constantly updating. Now you can exclude people and you can further narrow it. That is how you get it really specific. And you can stack these audiences when you create the ad. When you create that ad, that's where the custom audience or the lookalike comes into it. Now, finally, when you look here, there's also any of the events. So if you set up events on your site through the pixel, they would show up on here. This may be something that you have done, but if not, you can at least do time spent, or you can do visiting specific web pages. So that would then be something that we would name, and you want to give it a name that you're going to remember, and maybe even a description here, and then you would hit this blue Create Audience button. Once you do that, then it would say it is building it. So this would then, at that point, it would, under availability, it will be green and ready, but it will be building out. So the size won't be available yet. That can take up to an hour sometimes for that to happen. Let's look at a few more, just as we look at some of the options here. We're not going to look at all of them. Here's another one, though, that I like to use. Two more. Video is one. If I click video, then I can pick people who have watched a certain percentage. So maybe the through play, or say the top 75% of the people who have watched, and then I have to pick which video. So if you're using videos from Jesus Film or Lumo, Share the Story, the Global Gospel, or from wherever, maybe it's one of your own testimony videos, you can say, I want to create a custom audience of anyone who has watched a percentage of that video. Now, this is the video on either your Facebook page or in an ad. Okay, this is not the videos on your website. This is looking at it from your ad. So most of those videos will be less than a minute so that they can be also on Instagram if you're using them. They're just a trailer, but this way you can know the people who have watched the most. I would include in this your through play. If that's your ad objective is through plays, then you can retarget anyone who watched that first ad's video for at least 15 seconds. And then on these, you can go all the way back to 1 year. Now, remember this as well. The further back, there's no chance they're probably going to remember that video. So in one sense, you're really not starting with a warmer audience. If you have this that large, they're just not going to remember the message before. So you might want to keep this smaller, like the last 14 days or the last 30 days. I read something just this week that the average person receives somewhere between 4,000 to 10,000 marketing messages every day. So even though we love the content we're putting out, it doesn't mean that they're going to remember it. So I would really encourage you to keep the days tight, not too large. Give it a name, maybe a description, and then you would hit Create Audience. All right, so that's videos. One final one that we're going to look at today in this training is your Facebook page. So we're going to click Facebook page and click Next. And then this is people, once again, any or all, which is what we've had before. And this could be anyone who has engaged with your page. All right, let's just look at these options here. People who currently like your page, everyone who engaged with your page. All right, so they have taken an action on a post or ad. So this is reactions, shares, comments, link clicks, carousel swipes. Now, if the reaction is an angry face one, they would be included in this audience. But anyone who is engaged, I think this one will start to grow to be an even more powerful audience as well. Anyone who has visited your page, even if they didn't do anything, if they engaged with a post or an ad, this is definitely one that you might use. We'll go back to that there. People who clicked any call to action button, right? And this is on your page, not in your ad. So you may not use this one too much. But look at this one. People who sent a message to your page. Imagine a custom audience of those who have already sent you a private message. If you pick that audience, you don't have to keep sending them ads. you already know who they are. You're already talking to them. So I would encourage you to pick this one for sure. And then if you have that audience, you can exclude them from new ads that you run. Finally, anyone who's saved your page or any post is an option. So let's say we do one that is send a message to your page. Well, then we can also include others. We can also exclude. If we click on that, now we can say anyone who has sent us a message, but exclude those who currently like our page. Now, I'm not sure why we would do that, but that would be an option that you could do. And it looks like it brought up even an error message there as we tried to do it. Here again, we can go back to 365 days, but if it's been that long since they messaged you, they may not remember you at all. So what you could do is you could re-engage people who have sent you a message and then haven't talked to you for a while. You could just send a re-engagement message to them. This could be really powerful because of the 24-hour rule when it comes to messaging. A person sends your page a message, you have 24 hours to respond back to them. If you wait several days before you respond and then you start trying to engage them in Messenger or direct messages, your account can be marked as spam, and these messages could cause your ability to message people to be suspended, or your whole account could be at jeopardy if you continue to break those rules. So that's a rule change. It used to be 24 and 1. You had 24 hours and then one more time after that 24-hour window. But now, once a person messages you, you have 24 hours. Let's say they message you back. You have a brand new 24 hours. But somebody stopped messaging you, and it's been weeks since you've heard from them at all. You could use this one to do a re-engagement campaign of anyone who's messaged you in these past few days. All right, and so that could just be another really neat option. All right, we're going to name it, and then we would hit that blue create option. Now, there's one other one here, and once we've created our custom audience, we want to create a lookalike audience. And to create a lookalike audience, what you're going to do is you have to pick your custom audience source. All right, so you have to pick an existing audience or a data source. So you could upload, that's what that audience with a lifetime value, which is probably not something you're going to use, or you can use this custom audience. So if we've built one, say the messaging one, people who have messaged your page, we would pick it right here, and when you click in this box, it will bring up a list of all of your custom audiences. Then you can say where you want to create them. So let's say United States. If I spell it right, there it is. So if I said United States, all right, and then I have a custom audience, and then I'm saying I want to create one audience that is at the 1%. This is the closest representation to whatever your custom audience source is. So the people in this lookalike are around 99% or so similar to the people who have already done something on your site. Can you imagine the power of that? But here, if it was a US audience, it's 2.3 million people. Unless you have tens of thousands of dollars to spend, well, you're not going to reach that whole audience. That's okay. What we do is we create the lookalike audience, and you don't name it here because it's going to use your custom audience and then say lookalike so that you know the source of it. We would hit that blue button. When you do that and you create the ad, you would pick this lookalike audience, and then you go in and under the detailed targeting, the geographic area, that's where you can drop a pin or put your city and put the circle, the circumference around that area. So it's going to take that 2.3 million people in your lookalike audience and say everyone in this pool of people who are in this geographic area are the ones that are going to see the ad. So it's a great way to use a brand new audience that you don't know, but who are based upon things that have already happened to people that you maybe do know. Or maybe you don't know who they are, but they've done something that shows interest on your website or your Facebook page. So it is a great way to expand your reach to getting your message in front of people who are most likely to click, to download, to message you, to begin that spiritual process. So there's a lot to this. There's a lot of buttons. I hope that you will press buttons, and I hope that this can help you imagine the capabilities and the possibilities of finding people who the Holy Spirit is already working on. All right, there you go. And so I do hope that that's a benefit for you. Just that practice of pressing buttons is going to help you to just explore what these different functions and capabilities are. A few final things, and then I'm going to tell you about next week's training that we're going to have available, Lord willing. First of all, there is the podcast. It goes out every week, just called the Christian Media Marketing Podcast. It comes out every Friday, and in it, it's about 20 minutes long at a time, and we pick one specific thing. We talk about it. It is where I can address the most current and pressing issues in Christian media marketing, that at least that I know of. So I would hope that you might subscribe to that. It's on Apple and Spotify and all the different ones that are out there, as well as this YouTube channel or the Facebook page. I really appreciate GMPI greatly, and I appreciate them helping sponsor this show, and they have some tremendous content available, and they're doing a great work out there. So I hope that you would look at their YouTube channel and subscribe to it. I hope that you'll go to ours as well. Just click that subscribe button that you see being animated right there, and as well on our Facebook page. Will you go there and subscribe to our Facebook page? If you have questions, you can always go to KavanaughMedia.com. You can send us a message, as well as there's a lot of other training courses, all of them free, that you can go to help you get the message of Jesus, of the empty tomb, out to as many people as possible. So, what are we going to talk about next week? Well, next week, we're going to look at why a website is important and some practical suggestions about how to maximize your website for your evangelistic outreach. So I hope that you will tune in next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And do me a favor, if you're watching the show, share it. Share it with your friends, because if it's benefiting you, you may have some other people that could benefit from it as well. So as I say, to all my friends and clients and everybody else, partners that I'm working with, let's keep pressing forward to make Jesus famous everywhere, all around the world. Until next time, take care, and thanks so much for watching the show.